Al Jazeera, 29th of February 2024, according to cables, New Zealand pushed France on the Solomon Islands China Agreement. Under Chinese influence and control, the Solomon Islands, which played a crucial role in the Second World War, are now at the vanguard of the new conflict. According to recently disclosed documents, New Zealand pushed France's Pacific colonies in response to reports of a contentious security agreement between China and the Solomon Islands that alarmed Western capitals. According to diplomatic cables that Al Jazeera obtained, officials from New Zealand, Australia, and France met to examine the ramifications for the area just a few days after a draft version of the security treaty leaked online in March 2022. The document's reactions make the exact substance of the negotiations unclear. Still, the cables indicate Wellington anticipated authorities in New Caledonia and French Polynesia would comment on the Solomon Islands China Pact. Reports to Wellington from New Zealand diplomats stationed in Noumea, the capital of New Caledonia, stated that neither French Polynesia nor New Caledonia is likely to take a public position on the agreement. Following a meeting on March 30 with Patrice Faure, the High Commissioner of New Caledonia, representatives from New Zealand stated that they had passed along an unidentified suggestion to their French counterpart, emphasizing the importance of the first response coming from Pacific leaders and from the Pacific Islands Forum. Referring to recommended action, the specifics of which are withheld from public view in the documents, the New Zealand officials stated, "We suggested it would be helpful for Faure." The diplomats added of French Polynesia's High Commissioner Dominique Sarine, Faure undertook to do so, as well as to speak to High Commissioner Sarine, his counterpart in Papeete, with the same aim in mind. According to the documents, between March 29 and 30, New Zealand officials met with representatives from the French overseas territories 3 times. These meetings included talks with Edward Fritsch, the president of French Polynesia, and François Bihouet, the head of New Caledonia's Department of External Relations and Regional Cooperation. Pacific leaders convene at the premier regional forum, the Pacific Islands Forum, PIF, to deliberate, reach agreements, and take action on common issues. A spokesman for New Zealand's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade said in a statement released after publication that the Pacific Islands Forum members have the collective capacity, and a strong commitment, to support each other to meet the broader ambitions for the region's security, as set out in the Baikitawa and Po declarations. New Zealand and the Solomon Islands have a long-standing security partnership, as evidenced by our most recent participation in the Solomon Islands International Assistance Force, SOF, alongside Australia and Fiji, as well as the security support we gave to the Solomon Islands during their hosting of the Pacific Games late last year. The spokeswoman responded, "It is not for New Zealand to comment on the perspectives of other countries." When asked about rumors that New Caledonia and French Polynesia were hesitant to openly comment on the security agreement between the Solomon Islands and China. "But the French state has jurisdiction over security and defense matters," she stated. Al Jazeera reached out to the Australian Foreign Ministry and the French High Commissioners in French Polynesia and New Caledonia, but neither responded. Updates from the Solomon Islands, the United States, Australia, and New Zealand, who have long seen the Pacific Island states as their geopolitical backyard, were alarmed by the China security deal in 2022. Western officials have expressed fears, which Beijing and Honiara have dismissed, that China may use the agreement to create a military foothold in the Solomon Islands, which are roughly 2,000 kilometers (1,242 miles) from Australia and 3,000 kilometers (1,864 miles) from significant U.S. military sites on Guam. Following similar cautions from the U.S. and Australia, then Prime Minister of New Zealand Jacinda Ardern referred to the agreement as gravely concerning and warned that it might result in the militarization of the Pacific. With over 500,000 French nationals and 2,800 military men dispersed throughout the Pacific, France was silent in its reaction to the treaty. Paris controls the territory's security and defense, while elected legislatures manage internal matters in French Polynesia and New Caledonia. Less than 1,400 kilometers (870 miles) south of the Solomon Islands is New Caledonia, the location of a French military base, where the local Kanak people are kin to the Solomon Islanders. Senior lecturer Anna Powles of Massey University's Center for Defense and Security Studies said Wellington was trying to convey to Paris that any response would have to be Pacific-led, based on the diplomatic cables. Despite French President Emmanuel Macron's making the Asia-Pacific a key component of his foreign policy plan since 2018, Powell's claimed that neither France nor its overseas territories have been particularly active at the PIF. Despite not being a forum member, France can participate in its affairs through its overseas territories. Though relations have improved since then, Macron's attempts to collaborate more closely with members of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, which consists of Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the US, in the region suffered when a submarine deal with Canberra fell through in 2021. This led to forming the AUKUS security alliance between Australia, the UK, and the US. The South Pacific Defence Ministers meeting was held in December in Noumea, France. Australia, Chile, Fiji, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and Tonga were participants, and Japan, the UK, and the US were observers. Pro-independence movements are underway in French Polynesia and New Caledonia, where Paris is concerned about China's growing influence. This coincides with France's attempt to increase its power in the Pacific. Macron did not specifically mention Beijing in his remarks from last year, but it is thought that he was warning of a new imperialism in the Pacific. According to Cleo Pascal, a non-resident senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, the diplomatic cables indicated New Zealand was attempting to elude the French bureaucracy. "I would have assumed they could have gone to the French embassy in Wellington if they really were taking France seriously," Pascal said to Al Jazeera. "It feels, at best, awkward and not necessarily with a full understanding of the complexities of France's relationship with China." Given that Wellington was trying to strengthen ties with Beijing at the time and that the PIF hadn't said much about matters concerning the Solomon Islands and China, Pascal said it was challenging to determine New Zealand's intentions. "I have no idea what they're doing. This is not even close to the statement that the PIF ever made." President David Pinuelo of the Federated States of Micronesia was the only regional leader to speak out on the matter, and she claimed that he did not receive much support from other leaders in the region. New Zealand was organizing the PIF to make a statement and attempt to normalize relations with China. This doesn't align with what the general public knew about the PIF's current status and New Zealand's at the time.